Georgia's race for governor has added a candidate who is making history by launching her campaign yesterday. State Representative Ruwa Romman, the first Muslim woman elected to the state legislature, announced she would be aiming for Georgia's top job. She is pitching herself as a progressive voice focused on working families, rural health care, and housing affordability in what's shaping up to be a very competitive Democratic field. Here to break down her entry into the race and the impacts on the overall field is friend of the show, Emory political science professor Andra Gillespie. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, how significant is this now candidate enter into the governor's race?
I think it is significant mainly because of her ideological positioning. While I acknowledge her gender and her ethnic background and her religion, I think what's really important is that she is coming in trying to be a progressive voice in the race. Based on her op-ed writing and other things, we know from her positions that she is progressive, that she is aligned herself with Ruwa Romman, who, is running for New York City mayor. And I think she has been inspired by his campaign to try to inject some of that progressive energy into the Georgia race. And so she's focusing on populist issues, on bread and butter issues, hoping to put a coalition together that she hopes is going to be able to transcend the traditional partisan divides in the state.
What does her candidacy signal about the changing demographics and religious diversity for Georgia's electorate?
Well, I think it's very important for us to acknowledge that Georgia is increasingly diverse and that it's diverse beyond the black-white binary. So she certainly represents that vanguard. She's representing, a district in Gwinnett County, which is, arguably the most racially and ethnically diverse county in the state of Georgia. And she's representing, a growing population of folks who, are not just not born in the United States, but are not also black and white.
Mm-hmm. Are there any advantages that she would have as a newcomer, relatively newcomer, compared to an established Democrat in the race?
I think what she is trying to tap into is what she perceives to be a certain lack of enthusiasm for politics as usual. And she's hoping by offering new ideas and presenting herself as a fresh new voice, she's going to be able to, attract new voters and attract support. The challenge of doing that in Georgia is that Georgia is not New York City. Mm-hmm. And she's also not running against particularly embattled opponents like Mamdani did against, Eric Adams, who had to pull out of the Democratic primary, and Andrew Cuomo. So she's running against establishment figures in a state that is still ideologically more conservative. And that's even true amongst Democratic voters in the state. And she's doing so with relatively little elective experience. And also, we don't know what her fundraising is going to be. And she is young, and her work experience involves political organizing. It doesn't involve having run some other sort of, large corporation. So I think there are going to be questions about whether or not she's got the management type of experience in order to be able to handle this job.
Yeah. What role do you expect Romman to play in shaping the Democratic primary, even if she doesn't emerge as the nominee?
Yes, and I think that's a really important role. Sometimes you don't run to win, you run to sort of add to the conversation, and you run to actually influence what the eventual party platform is going to be. And so by entering the race and putting this emphasis on populist issues, on bread and butter issues like healthcare and on minimum wage and on housing, she is going to force her opponents to have a stance on this issue and to either adopt some of her points of view or to explain why she's wrong. And so in that role, she can still play a really important role even if her candidacy proves to be a long shot candidacy.
All right. Professor Gillespie, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank
always.
You.